Iris Tiel Isiptan. I'm from Manila, Philippines. I am a physician. I am an internist, endocrinologist, but I also teach in medical school.
Okay, great. Yeah. All right, Hannah?
Okay. Hi, I'm Hannah Kade. I'm from Syria, from Aleppo, but now I'm living in Germany, in Berlin. I'm a medical doctor, and I have experience in teaching with, or facilitating, I can say, with the ambulance course with Geneva Learning Foundation.
Thanks, Hannah. Erin?
Hello, everyone. My name is Erin Stapleton Corcoran. Can you hear me? You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I live in Chicago. I am an ethnomusicologist by training. I also have been working in e-learning and instructional design for the last few years. I'm an editor and a writer as well, and I'm excited to be joining this group.
Okay. All right, and I see Juan has dropped off again. So he says, it seems my connection is interrupted. I can see you, hear you occasionally, but I can't get my audio to work. Okay. One of the things I had in mind in sort of in inviting you to join this, the reboot, was what I know about your internet access. So it is a constraint, and Juan in the past has had sort of flawless access until this catastrophic event hit him. So I can introduce him, though. He's become kind of the COO, Chief Operations Officer, for the Scholar courses we do at the foundation and LSI through the Scholar Partnership. So he's actually written a 250-page manual to everything about running Scholar courses, which I have shared with some of you if you haven't seen it yet. It's a pretty, it's a whopper, and I'm trying to figure out how we can actually put it to use other than as a reference works. So of course I'm the one who last year convened the first Digital Scholar thing, and yes, and Iris is the one who built the learning module based on last year's Scholar. And if we're doing a reboot, it's all her fault. I'm just kidding. It's the result of the conversation we had, in which I got very excited about the idea of sort of deferring the course that was scheduled to start in today, and instead doing a sort of live day-by-day review, and sort of reinventing the course day by day and figuring out, using everything we've learned from Scholar courses this year. And this is where Hannah's and Juan's input and participation are really important, because they've been along for the ride on a number of these courses. Iris has become the goddess of learning modules, and Erin survived the Scholar apprenticeship and lived to tell about it. So yes, I do have a very clear sense of what, sort of how I see the sort of the rebooted course. Reviewing the learning module, basically my feeling is there's tons of stuff in there. Some of it, a lot of it very good, from different sources, but a lot of it's completely irrelevant with respect to the main task in the course, which was actually describing a course design, through a sort of as a course announcement. So I'd love to hear, again, if we can go around and do a quick feedback, what you, how you understand what we're doing, and what you think is needed, what you think we need to focus on in the reboot. Let's see if we can get, Juan has his microphone on mute. Let me see if I can unmute you. Profile hide from broadcast. Okay, it just says he's muted. Okay, Juan, you want to try to unmute? I guess you can't. Okay. Iris?
Okay. What I recall when we had that conversation was we wanted it more fluid so that we could respond to how people were reacting to the theoretical underpinnings that you were giving in the first course. so that we wanted to have videos every day to sort of capture the task for today and how it contributes to eventually coming up with the online course announcement.
Yeah. And so how do you feel about that? What do you see as like, you've already given me some really interesting feedback about sort of, for example, people who came in already having a course, but looking at how to do it, the digital version. What do you think we need to focus on to sort of make this as productive an exercise for people that, for people participating, and really focus on the gaps in digital learning skills across sort of educators, so whether that's in educators who already have some online learning experience but who don't know Scholar, or people who have never done online learning, because that's been the sort of span of people we've involved in the course. We involved in the course last year.
Well, since I'm doing the ambulance course now, and in the beginning I could see that it was very clear that you separated it immediately into English speakers and Spanish speakers. I guess that's one way of dividing it, but looking into what Scholar is, do you want to do it like dividing it into what we've talked about? People who are just here to audit the course, don't really know what they're doing in it, but found it interesting enough to sign on, or someone who has already done a face-to-face class and wants to convert it into an online and has a course outline, or someone who has an idea but doesn't, and wants it to do online but doesn't have really anything yet. Do you want to start off with that, or you think that there might be people who will fall into groups outside of those three?
That's an interesting. Do you think we? So that suggests doing something like tracks. Yes. Is that yes?
Yeah, but it's gonna be more complex than what you guys did for the ambulance course, where basically it's the same track except that you divided it according to language.
So the scenarios you describe is have a face-to-face course,
one to convert to online. That's one.
Second is interested in digital, no specific course in mind.
Yeah. And the last would be they have a specific course in mind, but it doesn't have face-to-face. They want to do it online, right? Right.
Yeah, I see your point, because then obviously it's different sort of steps, right? If you have a face-to-face course, then you're really interested in what can you take, what kinds of activities sort of transfer online. If you don't have a specific course in mind, well, in a way, it's kind of like, what are you doing in this course? If you have a digital course in mind, then it's really understanding the Scholar process. My thinking, and I think this is part of what I think needs to change in the course, is as much as we want to be agnostic about the sort of choice of technology and approach, the bottom line is that there's so many ways to learn about online learning elsewhere, but this would be the only course where you can learn about Scholar. So in all those cases, I would look at, so if you have a face-to-face course, the hardest thing to understand, and I think the sort of crux of it, is how the project-based approach works in Scholar, and then you can go back, and whichever of the three cases you're in, or ones we haven't anticipated, you really start with that project. What's the project you want people to work on? Does that
remember when we had the Scholar the first time, people came out with their course outlines. Is it possible to use something from there that would actually fit into those three things? Remember, we had a discussion where we want to bring them there, but they can't imagine getting there. So maybe we should start with the product of what it should look like.
Right. So this is, so in terms of, I think that's, so what I thought was that given that you are all except for Hannah and myself, you did the course last year, that for each step, one easy way to sort of build the course out would be for me to do the, the explainer for the specific section in the rubric. And then each of you explains how you did it for your course. So people can sort of pick and choose whichever course is closest to their interest and whichever person they find most, sort of interesting or relevant for them. And so for each step, you would go back to your course announcements. And I mean, maybe you've had obviously sort of reflections and change since then. And you would say, well, here's how I went about changing, selecting my course title. This is the title. And here's how it, here's the, maybe you even get into the feedback, like what motivated you to then change or modify the title. And that would be a very easy one to do sort of day by day would be, so today you would be recording a video on your course title. And so learners would have access from day one to all of your final course announcements and could use that to could sort of look at that, even though of course we put in the disclaimer that they need to be thinking for themselves and can't just be sort of copying what you did, but they wouldn't be able to because they're not going to teach the same course or not likely to. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that might actually work because for one, I did blogging while I was doing your course. So I think I actually still have traces of what you told me, and this is what I did because of what you said. So I can actually go back and look at that. So because when they see the final product, they see like the final title, but they don't know how I got there. So there's the video I'm gonna have is like how many titles were there before that one and how did I arrive at that one. Okay.
Yeah. On each section of your, and I think, Iris, another thing we need is you explaining like your initial reaction, or maybe explaining sort of the different, so I keep saying my microphone is muted even though it's not. Okay, so we need different scenarios and cases. We need why a course announcement. Why a course announcement isn't boring. Then we need.
Why don't you ask Erin? What did she think about it?
Yeah, Erin?
Well, I was one of the people that did my course. It was basically, my course announcement was based off of a face-to-face course. And to be perfectly honest, in the course announcement, the course that was just the course announcement development, I didn't do a lot differently than I had done for my own face-to-face courses. So I wasn't really moving towards online course development that much with my course announcement, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's interesting because Erin, when I talked to Reda, I was telling him when I found out that the 4 weeks was all about how to make a course announcement, I thought, why would we need 4 weeks to make a course announcement? And that's before I saw the rubric. Okay, but I think that's very valuable feedback that you're one of those that already had a face-to-face, because I went in without a face-to-face. I just conjured up a new course just for the Scholar one.
Yeah. So have any of you had a chance to look at the week 1 resources? So I basically, I have posted 2 videos there. I know I've posted a bunch of videos, but yes, the first one I think is 1 minute explaining about sort of how to think about your course title, and the other is actually probably one of the more complex ones that would probably sort of break up into a couple of separate videos on the call to learning. Oops.
I haven't had a chance to look at it. But maybe just because you were saying earlier that you have to do a course announcement, maybe that should be the first video.
Yeah. Okay, would you like to tackle that one?
Okay. I'll see what I can do about that. Yes.
I think that would be cool. Like, I mean, exactly the way you said it to me. You know, I was in Digital Scholar last year. I initially thought that, you know, I didn't see how we could possibly spend 4 weeks putting together course announcements, and then I saw the rubric. Yes, just I think that's, you know, to me, imagining this course as a kind of, you know, conversation. That's kind of how the conversation starts. Okay, so they signed up for this course. Some of them have their organizations, you know, so making a cost contribution to take this course. So what is it that's going to be interesting? So that, but I would say that would be part of orientation, which, yes. Do you agree, or do you think it should be sort of part of introducing the rubric and the creator project and so on?
Well, maybe you can ask Aaron, but my thing is, if we say that at the orientation, don't you think that might scare some people away?
Really, you think? Yeah, but I mean, I'm for full disclosure. I think, yes. So I think during orientation, people should be able to look at the rubric and sort of get a sense of what the, you know, that would be part of the online, that would be part of the briefing. You know, it would be sort of part of the tour they, yes, they get of what's, yes, because really, like, in thinking of how, I mean, sort of, for me, the most interesting transformation is no longer going from face-to-face to online. The most interesting transformation and what the real value for the from the Digital Scholar course is how you moved away from sort of content-driven approaches to activity, project, and problem-based approaches. You know, so typically course design, in my experience, like instructional design 101, is you define the, you define the learning objectives, and you figure out the activities and then the assessment. But most people actually end up just putting content together. You know, like, what are the readings? What's the curriculum? You know, what's the content we're going to use? And I think that's wrong. And I think if you force people to think, to start with how they actually you are going to call people to join the course, that has to be about activity. You know, that's the thinking. But I don't think I ever properly explained that, because a year ago, I don't think it was as clear to me as it is now.
Well, let's talk to Erin then, because she was the one that started with the face-to-face.
Well, I'm just curious, with the course announcement module, the 4 weeks, would it be too early? Would it be putting the cart before the horse to start discussing and describing and exploring online learning tools that could be used, or activities? You know, kind of like explorations of different types of techniques or tools that could be used in your course?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good point.
That's moving away from content.
Yeah.
That's always been my problem. And how am I doing my class online? How am I going to do this? You know, what am I going to do differently than in my face-to-face? What kind of tools, what kind of activities should I or could I use?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the other thing would be, are we going to go into the different kinds of tools, or are you going to go with, this is Scholar and this is what Scholar can do?
Well, I mean, that could be the angle, what works within Scholar.
Well, yeah, so if you think about it, sort of, if you put the sort of pedagogy lens first, you know, like, how do people learn first rather than tools and techniques, then you show that model of, you know, the Scholar's 7 affordances. You know, so you want to get people thinking about thinking, you want you want people to be able to work anywhere, anytime. You want people to use their collaborative intelligence to produce knowledge they can use. You all know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
but then you have to make the connections tighter, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, so I think it's that the diagram or the table I distributed sort of late in the course, showing all of the things you can do with Scholar, like if you want to develop case studies, if you want to develop implement action plans around the strategy. So I mean, basically the way I explain it now, which I didn't know how to do a year ago, is okay, in Scholar, you've got sort of two tracks for activities, for tools. You've got two tools or two techniques. The first one is a community, which is like a Facebook wall, and it's sort of free-flowing. Everyone can pitch in dialogue in the community. Yes, and it's like a fire hose. All right, so tell people that up front. And so in that community, you can ask people to do anything that you're able to describe and provide instructions for. Yes. So that's the sort of ultimate level of flexibility. If you want to send people to some resource online and get them to, get them to do something, as long as they can then document what they did, what they produced, or what the activity's outcome was or process in a community update, then you have a sort of infinite variety of activities available through the community. And unlike a traditional model in which everyone submits their assignment to the teacher, in Scholar, everyone submits their community updates to everybody else. Just like a blogs, when you blog, you're blogging to everybody. Yes. And then the second tool you have is Creator, which is unlike sort of communities free-flowing, no holds barred and everybody talking to everybody thing. In Creator, it's a very structured knowledge development process. It's private. You take ownership for what you do, and then you have peer review. And that is, and those two tools or those two things sort of correspond to different knowledge needs depending on what you're trying to accomplish in the course. So where I would start is like with your face-to-face course there, and I would say, well, let's look at what activities you've used in the past, and how would you have a look at some of the learning modules and see what activities are there, and then describe to me, take an activity you did in face-to-face and recast it, reimagine it as either a community or a creator, either a community activity or a creator project. Which would it be? Yes, that would be one sort of key step in developing the course design, in the course announcement. Does that make sense? Are you with me so far?
Yes, I am. Got that.
Why don't we ask Hannah? Because I've done 3 learning modules, right? The immunization one, the ambulance one, and the Scholar one. And in all 3, one of the things that you teach us to do is to actually filter the updates, which sort of like illustrates that concept you say that when you post something, everybody sees it, right?
Yep.
But maybe we can ask Hannah because the thing is, you can't actually say that that's what it does unless you experience it yourself. Does that make sense? I mean, you can tell us it's like this. It's like a Facebook wall, but it's sort of like not really a Facebook wall, isn't it?
Well, funny thing is, Facebook, to avoid, I think, what you get in the fire hose you get in Scholar, Facebook picks what you see, right? So if you have like 200 friends and you would normally see like 100 updates a day, Facebook will only show you 10, and we don't, Scholar gives you everything. But yeah, Hannah, are you there? Do you want to?
Yeah, actually, I have a small comment before what you said about the orientation week in Scholar. I think, should I say it or leave it to later?
No, please.
Yeah, I think changing, or most of the participants, I said, maybe from the Arabic speakers. It's very new for them to have these online courses, and especially they are used to have face-to-face courses or trainings, and it's always like a teacher or a trainer, and they are participant. They got only the information. But now in Scholar, it's something new, and I heard it several times from the participant that it's a new way to learn, like writing your experience and got the others experience and put your comments and got their comments. That's very new for them.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first week, an orientation week. It's really important to just let them know where they are, what they have to do, what's this scholar, how to enter, what's this update, what is this something shared, how can I share my update, how can I introduce myself.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that's very, very important. Maybe for others have experience with Scholar or with online courses might be a little bit. Hello?
Hello, Barbara's on the line now.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi,
Hi.
Barbara.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
Hannah. You want to finish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just want to say, because maybe for the others who has experiences with online courses or with Scholar, might be a little bit boring this orientation week, but I think the new participants are also important to have this orientation of what will happen.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So that raises an interesting issue, which I think is less of a problem for Digital Scholar, which is for educators, so people with an interest in how we learn, teach, and learn. My approach in the past has always been to, rather than sort of going around boasting, here's how Scholar is different and it's a new way to learn, to just allow people to experience it. But it makes sense for educators to, for a group of people with an interest in teaching and learning, to spend more time explaining it. And obviously there have been problems with, as you said, Hannah, with the with the people who have with people who are used to a very didactic model, with a teacher giving them lectures that they then have to show they have, where they then have to show that they're able to recall what the knowledge that was given to them. So point
Exactly.
well taken about taking more time during orientation. And maybe, I think maybe saying, look, if you just want to lecture, you don't need to take this course. If you just want to do things the way you're used to doing them, you don't need to, please leave. You're free to go. Do you think that's too radical a sort of
No, I
call?
didn't say
Or
I didn't say that they are not excited to have this new experience. They want
yeah,
to, but I mean,
yeah,
they find themselves like in a weird situation. They don't know what to do, what's right, what's wrong, how to move forward. So that's why I think first, how we say, the orientation week, or maybe 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 days, just to know how to move, what to do. Uh, I don't know if you got my point.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
all right, let's hear from Barbara. Welcome. It's good to see you. I don't think I don't remember seeing your moving face, seen that picture. But
Maybe once.
so Barbara, like Aaron, was a scholar or apprentice and has lived to tell about it. Yes, and Barbara is a woman of many talents, but among the strength that really came through during the apprenticeship was her ability, willingness to sort of engage, to sort of be really responsive, to be the first one to comment, the first one to give feedback, the first one to sort of share her thoughts, and do it in a constructive way to help everyone along. And also to be sort of candid about the challenges and difficulties she encountered, with the technology part of it, or with and I think that corresponds to the situation. some people are going to be in, even in a course for educators, for digital educators. So welcome, Barbara, and thank you for joining us. I apologize, I've been really bad at explaining exactly how things have been sort of evolving and how we've been just sort of what we've sort of landed on doing in July. Yes. So would love to have you. Could you kindly introduce yourself and just share what your expectations are, and if you have any questions for us.
Sure. I'm Barbara Brown. Live in Sumter, South Carolina, right in the middle of the state of the southern part of the Southeast. And we're having some really hot weather lately. I've retired from Clemson University after working 25 years as a community development agent there, and carrying on some of that work, working both locally and globally, trying to bring about community development. But I do a lot of that through deliberative dialogue, and in fact, that was part of my initial scholar project. Just sort of to move ahead a little bit, I obviously came in on part of your conversation, and what popped in my mind that might move people to thinking, okay, this isn't the same as I've always taught, and yes, I can learn, but this is something different, how to apply these different approaches using technology. My one thought was possibly to get people to share ideas they have that they think are innovative. How can I use technology to help me do this innovative teaching? And some of the things they say might fit into what a digital scholar course would cover. I think some of them, even though if they didn't fit directly, you might be able to allude to that at some point, or somebody sort of watching the updates might, like myself, might be able to make those connections. So I think that's probably enough to say right now as far as introduction.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Barbara. So, right. So what I have, so for me, the takeaways are Aaron's idea about, so just, let me go. So from Iris, it's really the focus on sort of the context for the learners coming in. What are they trying to do? What are they trying to accomplish? Do they have an existing course that they want to convert online? Are they just interested in digital, or do they have a digital course in mind? Do they have an existing sort of curriculum, or is it something that they're starting fresh? I think that's, yes, from Aaron, this exploration of different types of tools and techniques. So on Iris, I think Iris, that's a video that that to me would be an orientation week video that you could prepare. That would be my suggestion.
All right.
In which video or whatever whatever else. Let's not restrict. So I'm all into video now because I enjoy recording videos in my garden in front of these mauve flowers. But can we say activity? Like, let's have, for each of these issues that we bring up, where it's relevant, could you, Iris, design an activity that would get people to sort of think through their context, and then sort of figure out how they fit into the course, or what specific things they would have to do in the course?
Okay.
Yep. And then,
yep.
Aaron, you talked about the exploration of different tools and techniques. So yes, an obvious activity there would be, so post an activity that you would like your learners to do, or so this wouldn't be orientation. This would be like week 2, early in week 2. Thinking about that in the first 2 weeks they're doing their creator project. So post an activity that you would like to do and describe how you would do this activity in Scholar. So, is it a community activity? Is it a creator project? And in either of those cases, what does that community activity look like, or what does the Scholar project look like? Yes. Erin, would you feel ready to take that on?
I think so, and I'm just curious. So the course that I developed was in music, which is quite different than the vast majority of the courses that are, I did a world music course. Would it be okay if I do it from my perspective and just kind of quickly describe what I usually teach in my class and how I've converted it, or how I transformed it to an online course?
So that would be great, as long as it fits into either Scholar Community or Scholar Creator. So you could provide an example from your own work, but then you'd also want to figure out what's the set of instructions to give to people, so that they can then think they can think. First question is, well, what does the learner get to do? Does it fit best as a community activity, or does it fit best as a creator project? If it's a community activity, then the exercise would be to write up that activity for the learner, and they could refer to your example. And if it's a creator project, there obviously we're not going to have them write out a rubric and all that, but to sort of summarize what the creator project consists of, and with sort of an indication of the rubric. That sounds like a great sort of early in week 2 activity.
Because I didn't take part in the ambulance course, but am I understanding it correctly? Was it more of like a workforce development, like training of procedures, or not? Am I completely okay?
No, so the ambulance course people have developed basically trying to identify and think about good practice and local solutions around the risk of against the risk of intentional violence.
Okay, totally different than I thought it was. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's not. We could use it, so to teach, sort of procedural, knowledge, but that's not the case here. Okay. So are you okay with developing that activity, Erin?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Cool. And then Hannah, would you like to? Oops.
I just have one more question. Are you thinking of it being a video or more of a document, or a combination of both?
So we want to be practical. So at the end of the day, we need something that can go into an update, because that's how we would sort of tell people, invite them to complete this activity. So of course, an update can have a document that you download to look at. A document can have an update can have an embedded video. Like I say, I'm all into video right now, but I think I'm sort of in love with my own videos, and I need your critical feedback to tell me if if you're falling asleep. And so anywhere, if you want to do a screencast in which you show some things, if you want to give a list of links, if you want to, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, it has to help people identify, is it community, is it creator? If it's community, what do they tell people to do, and how to do it? And then if it's creator, to summarize the project. I think that would be the, and maybe if they don't think it fits into either category, they should, that might be a logical conclusion. But the thing about community, and this is a literacy pedagogy of a Scholar, is if you can write it, if you can write it, you can do it in Scholar. Yes. And even so, if it's even, and that, I think that works even with music. Like even if as long as you can describe what people have to sing, yes, play or listen to, they should be able to do it in Scholar. And Hannah, on orientation, would you like to try to design a way to explain to people what is different, how Scholar is a new way to learn? So keep in mind, unlike the ambulance course, this is for people who want to use Scholar themselves for teaching. Could be anything, could be music, could be math, could be science, could be medicine, could be humanitarian work, could be anything.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And then Yeah, Barbara, you said, how can I use technology to do this innovative teaching? So that sounds like an orientation type activity, sort of. Could you do, Barbara, sort of your personal testimony on, on taking the Digital Scholar course?
Right, just sort of in a written update, sort of just sharing comment or something. Though I think what I was meaning is I could see where looking at that approach could have probably apply to most daily task. If people are commenting, maybe per the assignment, there might be something to say in an update from a person who's done it before to get them to talking if they're not talking, or if they are talking, to maybe move them thinking farther about what they could do with it. I was responding to your question when I first entered on, well, what if people are just wanting to keep on doing what they're doing and they're just really on this and out of curiosity, they really don't want to use technology. And so my thought was sometimes just sparking that idea of innovation, they could see the application of it. But I don't think that's limited to just orientation. And I think I was coming from what you and I had previously talked about, is planting those seeds of discussion during the entire course within updates and comments.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable with doing that without necessarily having to take on too much.
Right.
Might evolve into more.
Right. So we want to try to run this as a simulation. So what that means is we want to do it sort of in real time. So the other part of the challenge, one is coming up with sort of good ideas of what we can plug into the community. But the other is then being able to produce whatever we identify is needed or could strengthen the course very quickly. Yes, so that's part of why I'm in love with these videos, because they're so quick to produce, and I usually do them in sort of one or sort of 2 or 3 takes. So my next question, if you agree that on the things we've identified, so one thing that is needed is for the day 1 and day 2 videos that I posted. So day 1 on the course title and day 2 on the call to learning. For those of you who took the Digital Scholar course, to actually record or write up what that experience of coming up with your course title was like for you, and how you actually developed the call to learning, and what and your specific, with respect to your specific course. And the idea would then, Barbara, because you weren't there when we were discussing it, the idea would be to have me provide the sort of explainer of the particular criterion in the rubric, and then to have you as alumni, actually contribute, sort of mini videos or any other format that you want to use, that you believe works. To actually say, okay, well, you've just heard Reda on the call to learning. I developed a course on X, and here are the dilemmas. Here's what I struggled with. And you can share, of course, this call to learning portion of your Scholar project. I'm thinking that might be best done as a sort of screenshot of it, if it's less than, if it fits on one page. And so for people, they would get the explainer, and then they would get examples, and then they have to take responsibility for what they go and do in Creator. So given that we're for me, it's the end of day 1. For Iris, it's the late evening of day 1. Do you think it's a realistic aim to to try to stay in sync? So basically, within the next 24 hours, to have you post your day 1 and day 2, sort of experiences for the title and call to learning. And then to also take on these activities that we've identified would also strengthen the course.
I think so. Might be a little a little weak on content for the next couple of days. I was just into everything that you had posted just this morning. So
okay, yeah. Aaron, Hannah, and Iris, because I know you all have crazy schedules and are doing so many things, all of you. But again, I mean, we don't have, what prompted me, what motivated me last year was I had 400 and some people waiting for the next update, and you were amongst them. So do you think we are able to recreate that? I can commit to doing, continuing to do the videos, and I think I'll re-record the day 1 and day 2. But do you feel, are you willing to take up the challenge of keeping up with me just by each time doing the, sort of your alumni, let's call it alumni testimony on your experience with a specific part of the rubric, and advice to people doing their own? Anybody?
Sure. Yes.
Yep. Okay, cool.
I just feel like I should bring up the fact that I had a lot of problems, and I'm embarrassed to admit it, but actually fully comprehending and taking it on board that scholars they should in the course.
Can you repeat that, Aaron? For some reason you're breaking up.
Oh, sorry. The whole idea that Scholar, that you build your documents within Scholar. For some, I mean, I watched some of the videos. I seem to be slow to that comprehension, and I doubt I'm the only one when I was taking it.
Do you mean that you're actually going to sort of write up a project inside a part of Scholar that's private and that other people won't see until it's submitted for peer review?
Just that it's more, I don't know. I mean, I'm just admitting my failure with this early on. Maybe I wasn't as focused in the project as I should have been, but that it's almost like you're creating it within a Microsoft Word document or a different word processing or different type of document creation.
Yeah.
As opposed to I created it in Word and then was trying to put it, I don't know, I'm not really speaking very articulately, but there was a real learning curve, or just like a lack of kind of grasping that concept for quite a while I was taking the course the first time.
So would you like to, so I think we could call this, I don't know if it's, I think it's a little bit different from sort of Scholar tips and tricks, but it's like what I wish someone had explained to me. We could have, in the daily updates, we could have a video like that from one of us who says, when I started with Scholar, I kept getting all these notifications. I was completely confused. Here's what I did to tame the activity stream. Or when I first heard about your creator project, I had no idea what that meant, and it took me a while to figure out that you actually had to do this and that. Yes, is that what you mean?
Yes, I mean,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I submitted, I mean, I think I submitted mine as a PDF. I mean, that's ridiculous that I didn't catch on.
Okay.
Well, I was really busy at the time, but I mean, it's kind of shocking that, and I'm not somebody that's usually that clueless, so I cannot imagine I'm the only person that was that kind of not in sync with Scholar at that point.
Yeah. What? Well, I think we could all have, yes. So shall we have like because in week 1, and unlike, I think I took a little while to start the creator projects last year, but I think here on Monday, or they should or on Tuesday, no later than Tuesday, they should receive their creator projects, and or the notifications to start their creator projects. So that would be a perfect video to add. Here is Erin. She was in Digital Scholar last year. Is now a member is now a member of this course team and an LSI apprentice. Here is today's. I wish someone had told me. Yes. Had told me this. I wish I had known, or what would be the?
I wish I had caught on. It just was like some kind of, and it's part of the online environment that you're not. I don't know. I just somehow there was just a piece of that I missed.
Yeah.
And it was on me, but.
So this one was about how create. So then that leaves, all right. So, and Iris and Hannah, about the, because my question was about keeping up in real time with day by day with a course.
Okay, I'm here in Cebu because I'm running a workshop tomorrow, the whole day. I will try to do something at night. The part about the title, did you also say quality learning? That's easy because I just have to explain how I did it. But the part where you said I have to think about the activity at the beginning, I need time to think about it. But if something does occur to me and I'm able to do it, then you will see it.
Okay, yeah, and I'll do a recap message with what we've so my understanding of what we've said and committed to. So, what I really like about doing explainer followed by testimony is how easy it is to produce. Because it's basically telling sharing your experience. For you and for me, it's explaining something that I sort of deeply, deeply engage with. So, but then these other ideas we're coming up with, that's what I consider just. If you cannot get them done, then I think for me the sort of minimum commitment we should have to each other is for me to produce the explainers and for you to produce the testimony of what it was like for you, how you actually sort of got to that, or completed that part of the creator project. And then these other things are more than nice to haves, I think, because they're obviously grounded in our experience last year. So it could save someone from confusion. It could help people sort of better identify how they connect to the course, or help them understand what's different about Scholar. So Hannah, what about you? Obviously, you would be exempted from the first part because you weren't in Digital Scholar yet.
Yeah, it's a little bit new for me, but why not? If I can help, yeah. Like for example, these things that you told me, like uh, recording a video or writing an activity or something like this. Yeah, why not?
Well, the sort of for me, the sort of easiest way to do it is to just record a video. That's transmissive, but the point is people then get to do something with it. So it would be, hello, my name is Hannah. I have facilitated 2 Scholar courses. If you want to, I know you're very modest, but if you want to boast, my cohorts, the cohorts I facilitated have achieved the highest completion rates ever in a Scholar course. And here is how I explain that Scholar is a different way to learn. So if you're used to having a trainer, a sage on the stage, here's what you should expect. Here's what's different. You say it with your words, with your way, how you would explain it to someone, to a participant in the course, keeping in mind that in this case, we're talking to people interested in teaching and learning. So people who are interested in producing, not just, obviously the part of it is they have to learn how to use Scholar just like anyone else taking a Scholar course. But at the end of the day, what they want to do is teach their own courses using using Scholar. I think we're going to be more explicit about that than in the past. So then the deadline would be 4 p.m. tomorrow. For both the explainers and then these additional these sort of activity design that I think would be really cool to have.
So 4 p.m. your time is 10 p.m. So you mean before our next hangout?
The idea, so here's my thinking, but again, subject to the reality check of everyone's schedules and commitments. But the idea was before to make sure that these calls have a point. Then the commitment we would make to each other is to review each other's resources, preferably before the call, or if we can't, maybe we can watch them together in the Hangout and then discuss them. Yes. What do you think?
Okay, I was just confirming it. That's all. Okay.
Okay. I mean, I'll be, so for me, I'll be posting sort of early afternoon Manila. So morning for me, I'll be doing the next parts of the rubric. Whatever comes after the call to learning. Just, let me see what that actually is. I don't know where I've put my rubric, but anyway. And then as soon as you send me as soon as I see any content coming from you guys and gals, I would definitely, I would go and look at it, and I think to make this a complete exercise and to give you a sense of really sort of honing those skills, if you can post it, if you can post the update, this is not what I did this morning, but it's what I'll do tomorrow. If you could post the update the way you would post it for the participants, just in the real course, because then we can just take the update and put it into the learning module. Yes. So tomorrow, I'm actually going to try to stay a step ahead, because I've already done day 1 and day 2. So tomorrow morning, I would be recording schedule and workload, and then intended learning outcomes. Maybe I'll try to do 2 a day. Even though I also want to think about what we've said, sort of that process of how you get people to identify what are they going to do in the community, what are they going to do in Creator, what's their Creator project going to be. I don't think the current rubric actually addresses that very clearly. Intended learning outcomes, learning activities. Okay, so maybe I'll do learning activities tomorrow, because that's, you've got the call to learning and the learning activities that are really key that you need to figure out. Yeah. Sorry, I'm thinking aloud, but yeah.
And you're suggesting that we post within day 2?
So
that you've already posted the initial part to that.
Yeah, so I'll try to record, because these explainer videos really are easy to do. So 2 things. One is I'll try to move ahead as much as I can, sort of, even if and then that's also an opportunity for you to tear apart my explainers and to tell me what's wrong with them, so I can go back and re-record them and make them better.
So I just want to clarify for my portion of this. Am I supposed to, by tomorrow, do a video kind of describing some of the learning curve or what I wished I had caught on about Scholar from the start? Is that what I'm working on for tomorrow, or?
That's the second item. So the first item, the first item is to basically, for the course title and call to learning, share your experience with how you determine what is my call to title, what is my call to learning. And then second is to record the first, I wish I had caught on yes, video to tell us what it was about Creator that you missed. Yes. And again, the more specific it can be, like to your context, like, hey, I'm trying to teach music. I don't see, I don't see anything sort of for music education in Scholar, or, here are my, my specific learning needs. I think that's an interesting challenge for people. What I'm afraid of with this sort of lots of examples and people sharing and you sharing your experiences is that people will then just copy. They'll say, oh yeah, well, Aaron told us to do an activity, in which you post your favorite music of the week. Yes. So we'll just do that. Yes. So I think we want to avoid that, and so make it real, compelling storytelling. You're sharing how it really went down, how you came up with the course title. If you're not satisfied with it and you would change it now, then you can say that too and explain sort of what's changed your take on the course title that you thought was great a year ago, for example.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's for tomorrow. is the course title and the call to learn. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. Well, that's an hour, and well, that's about an hour because it took us time to get everybody everybody on board. Any are you okay with this process? And which one of you would like to facilitate tomorrow's session? Okay. Anybody? Iris, do you think you'll just be exhausted tomorrow? Is tomorrow? I mean, while you're training, is that? I imagine that's not the best time to.
Yes. Yeah, it's actually going to end up at 5, and then I will have 5 hours in between to get to your deadline.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Well. All right. Well, I can do tomorrow's, and we can see going forward who's. I don't want to sort of push anybody. I think this is already a pretty huge commitment to be making. To be, yes. Keeping up with this. I do think that once we've gone through the rubric, which should take us about this week and next, the remaining 2 weeks won't be so much about producing new stuff. It'll be about looking at what we've done and putting it into a learning module. So I would expect really this week and next week to be the most intense ones, but I could be wrong. Yes. And the other thing we'd have to do is actually once we've got once we know what the course looks like, which we'll know after the end of next week, we'll be revisiting, sort of rewriting the course announcement or editing it so that it reflects what we think we can actually help people achieve in the course. So which to me is the real interesting part. So any other comments, questions, feedback, points for tomorrow's discussion? Anything you'd like to add before we go?
Nope, I'm all good.
All right. Erin and Hannah?
It's fine.
I think I'm good.
Okay. I do think that the call to learning, when you get to that tomorrow, so after tomorrow's call, I might actually redo that one because there's so much in there that's so important to actually, getting a course right, making it, how you get people to actually respond to a call. I might do a couple of examples using using the ambulance course, sort of explaining how we thought through what would actually appeal to ambulance practitioners, even though I've never, unlike Hannah, I've never ridden in an ambulance. Yes. So that's going to be a big one. The other big one is the sort of market demand stuff and the activities. So I think I'm going to try to focus on those big items in the rubric and leave stuff that seems sort of more, that basically we use the same text, we use the same language for every course. Yes, I'm going to see what that stuff is, and so that, that's not so much heavy lifting as the, as is this other stuff. So I'm excited. This is just, I've never done this before, and I discussed it with Seb Schmaller. So he's he was an early supporter of the foundation, and his thing was basically, well, if you can, he saw it as a kind of luxury to be able to actually sort of run a course in real time, producing resources as we go before the course is actually run. But I have actually got a blog post in which basically explain why I think this is this solves a number of problems with both MOOCs, where you have where content is static because you record the videos and you prepare the exercise and activities before the course is run, and Scholar, where you, at least the way I do it, you sort of write things up day by day, but then for learners, they have no visibility or little visibility or not enough visibility on what's coming next. So I'm hoping we can sort of resolve these dilemmas that have been sort of bugbears for learner-centered learning for a long time, and at the end of the first couple of weeks, have sort of figured out, whether this works or not. That's sort of question one. There's a open allowance for failure, or its possibility. And then second, if it works, what kind of time and effort is required to do it as a team? And I'm looking forward to, I'm expecting this to be like so much more than what the little team last year with Catherine Russ and Bill was able to sort of cobble together. So I have very high expectations for our little group, and thank you for for jumping on board.
We appreciate
Okay.
the opportunity, Redico.
All right. So take care, all of you, and see you tomorrow.
Take care. See you tomorrow, and thanks again.
Yeah, see you
Okay.
tomorrow.
All right. Bye-bye.